Trading is hard. Okay, trading is hard. It's very, very hard. But I'm not saying this to, discourage anybody into getting into trading. But this message is for a trader out there, a new trader out there. Or we have less than 3 years of experience in the market and listening to this video. A lot of trading gurus, trading content talked about controlling your emotions, being disciplined, having patience, and all of that. But I'm here to tell you that trading is actually a lot more than all of those things. It's way more complicated than that. And that is what most people do not talk about. That is what most forest content creators they don't talk about, because it is a personal journey. You actually have to go through the experience by yourself in order to get this insight. You can only get this insight by having the experience, having the personal experience by yourself. There is something about trading that is not being talked about, and it is actually the most important aspect of trading. And that's what actually takes traders a lot of time to get through. And that is the psychological part of trading. And this aspect of trading is brutal and it's terrible. And you can actually, continue being in this psychological loop for a long period of time. And that is what causes frustrations and depressions in the market for a trader. This problem is rooted at our subconscious level. What do I mean by that? You may not even be aware that this problem exists in the first place. And if you are not aware that this problem exists, that automatically means that you will not be able to solve this problem, because you don't know that this problem exists. This problem is rooted in our subconscious mind. It is rooted in our identity. It is rooted in who we are as an individual. What comprises you in your mental environment. This topic is so important that if you don't actually understand this, then it's going to be very hard for you to be consistently profitable. And I think that is what most traders struggle with in the market, and that is what I personally still struggling with and still trying to learn and relearn, and trying to understand what this is about, and start from our identity, about who we are beneath the surface, beneath our behaviors, beneath our emotions, at the core of us as an individual. And it is our identity. It is the programming that runs us unconsciously. And what are these programs? These programs are deeply rooted in us that, it is almost very impossible to even understand or become aware of these problems. And what the beauty of trading is that trading will bring out your hidden flaws, what you don't show to others, what you yourself don't even recognize as a problem. Trading will make it to bring it out of you and show it to you as this and this and this and this are problems. And that is why we cannot control our behaviors in trading, because why? These problems are deeply rooted in our subconscious mind, and it actually express itself even without our conscious awareness. That's why we break our trading rules over and over and over again, even after promising yourself over time that you are not going to break your rule, you still go ahead and still do those things when you are under pressure. And this is an identity problem, because our identity is what runs us at the subconscious level. These are the programming that runs our nervous system, and our nervous system drives our behavior. So the main problem now is our identity, and you cannot change the output without changing what creates the output. You can't change your behavior without changing what creates the behavior. So you have to go within yourself. You have to ask yourself serious questions. You have to go within yourself and actually recognize what drives you, what actually drives your behavior, what triggers your emotions. These are the real problems. Traders actually go on and on solving the wrong problems, and can actually be lost in solving the wrong problem for months, for years, without seeing the result that you want to see. And why is that? Because you are solving the real problems. You are solving the wrong problems. And being aware of the real problems takes a high level of awareness. It takes a high level of awareness to even recognize the real problem in the market. And recognizing the real problem is just a part of it. And solving the problem is another part of it. So it takes time to even recognize the problem. So before you solve the problem, you have to recognize the problem. You have to know that the problem is not the chart, it's not the market, it is not the central banks, it is not the big players. It is you at your subconscious level. It is your unconscious patterns. It is your unconscious self that drives your nervous system. And it is your nervous system that drives your behavior. And it is your behavior that self-sabotage you. So it is very important for you to ask yourself the real questions. Do the real work. Go within yourself and understand who you are, how you operate beneath the surface. What drives your emotions? What drives your actions? What drives your motivations? You need these things. You need to be aware of these things. When you become aware of these things, that is when you switch to the observer mode. That's when you come out of yourself, you come out of your body, and you see yourself as who you really are. You begin to deassociate yourself. You begin to deassociate your real self from your mind. You begin to observe your thoughts. You begin to observe your patterns. You begin to stay aware. This is very, very important, because without this, it's very, very hard to be consistently profitable. It is all about you. It is not about the market. So my message to a trader out there is, stop focusing on the outside. Stop focusing on the chart. Stop focusing on what went wrong on the chart. Identify your edge in the market, quite alright. But the real work begins with asking yourself real questions. It begins with understanding who you are at the core, at the source. It's very important to understand yourself, to have a knowledge of yourself. Without knowledge of self, you cannot go far in this journey. It's going to take a very long time for you. So you have to, escape the matrix of your mind. Everything that you are experiencing in your reality starts from the mind. So when you attack it from here, then it is easier for you to adjust yourself. So adjust your behavior when the pressure arrives. If you don't recognize that the problem is there, is in your mind, it's how you perceive yourself, how much you understand yourself, how much you are in control of yourself, then going to continue to be a problem. I personally am still learning, I'm relearning, I'm failing, I'm getting up, and I'm still going through the journey. And experience is key in this journey. Without experience, you cannot actually understand a lot of things. So don't get discouraged even though you are failing. This journey is tough. It's a mental battle that it takes a lot of time to become aware of the problem, of the real problem, to start solving the real problem. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. You have to be mindful. You have to practice mindfulness. You have to practice meditation. You have to practice breath work. It takes a lot of effort. And why am I saying this? I've had my own share of experience, and I've actually recognized what the problem is. And recognizing the problem is a lot of work. And I can see that most traders out there don't even recognize the real problem in the market. They don't have the awareness of what the real problem is. And that is why it's taking them a long time to becoming consistently profitable. So if you are a beginner trader out there, or you have less than 3 years of experience in the market, you have to understand that the work begins in your mind. It begins at identifying yourself, knowing your identity, because your identity is what drives your nervous system. And your nervous system creates your behavior. So if you don't start solving the problem at the subconscious level, if you don't start recognizing the patterns that keeps repeating itself over and over again, then the pattern will continue to repeat itself. So if you are a trader out there, just take it easy on yourself. This journey is brutal. It's a very brutal journey. It's a brutal journey that if you are not ready mentally, we are not ready spiritually, we are not strong mentally and spiritually, then you're gonna spiral. You might even spiral into depression. You're gonna spiral into frustrations. You're gonna be angry at yourself. So remember, the work starts within yourself. Work starts within yourself. Go within yourself. Identify the programs that runs you, the beliefs that runs you, what drives you internally. That is the starting point. That is actually the starting point. It is recognizing what drives you. And you have to go spiritual about yourself. You have to understand that everything happens in the mind, and you cannot allow the mind to take charge. You have to come out from your mind. You have to be the observer of your mind. Come out from your mind and observe the character. Your human self is the character. Your deep self, your higher self is the observer. So you have to come out of your mind. You have to disassociate yourself from your mind and recognize your mind and recognize how your mind works. Recognize how your mind operates during pressure. Recognize how it behaves. Recognize what drives your mind. It is very important. It is very, very important. It is so important that if you don't do these things, it can actually set you back for years in the market, and most eventually are likely to give up on yourself, because the real work requires a high level of self-awareness. That is what it requires. It is crazy. It is very, very, very crazy, and it is more than it is deeper deeper than the money. It is deeper than the profit. You cannot be so focused on the money. It's not about the money. Leave the money first. Do the work. Work on yourself. Fine, you're gonna need money to trade the market. You're gonna need money to trade the market. But always remember that you should always trade the money that you can afford to lose. Don't trade the money that you cannot afford to lose, because losses are inevitable. Losses are going to come, and you cannot actually control the market. It is impossible. You are just a tiny drop of water in an endless ocean. That's what you are in the market. You cannot control the market. So remember to always use the amount of money that you can afford to lose. That is very, very important. At least that one will safeguard you. Even if the losses come, it will not spiral you into frustration. It will not spiral you into depression. But remember that the real work starts within yourself. It starts within yourself. Recognize the real work. Recognize what drives you. Recognize your identity. Learn about yourself. Learn about your brain. Learn about how your brain works. Learn about your mind. It is very, very important. These things are important. It is very, very important. So stay focused and trade focused. Stoic trader. I'll see you in my next video.